The following story is a translated and adapted conversation, recounting supernatural experiences from around the world. This content is intended for entertainment purposes only. Listen with an open mind and enjoy the thrill of the unknown. The content in this video is purely for entertainment. Viewer discretion is advised. If you are easily frightened, be prepared some stories might just send chills down your spine. If you're ready, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and immerse yourself in the world of the unexplained.
The Lights Off Island's Edge, November 9th, 2018. Cloaked the western coast of Ireland, a rugged fringe of cliffs and churning sea in a cold, starless gloom. The sky hung heavy with a thick veil of clouds, the air crisp with salt and the faint temps of peat drifting from the land below. British Airways, Flight BA94, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, piloted by Captain Emma Hayes, 45, a seasoned aviator with a steady hand, cruised at 38,000 feet en route from Montreal to London Heathrow. The cabin hummed softly, passengers dozing under the drone of engines, the Atlantic stretching endless beneath a shroud of night. At 6:47 a.m., pre-dawn darkness reigned, the wind shifting a gentle breeze turning sharp and frigid, whistling through the fuselage with a high, keening edge that rattled the cockpit. The radio crackled a garbled hiss, not English, "We pursue," then died, its static hot in Hayes' headset. A low thrum-thrum pulsed from the sky, vibrating through the airframe into her bones, and the instrument's flickered deltameter spinning, compass whirling. The air thickened with a stench ozone and something rancid, like burnt metal laced with sulfur, that seeped into the cockpit, stinging her eyes. "What's that?" Co-pilot Mark Evans, 32, muttered, his voice tight as the thrum-thrum grew, a heartbeat in the void. Hayes glanced starboard, her breath fogging the glass, and froze. Lights 3. Then 5 white and blinding, erupted 50 miles west over the ocean. Hovering at 40,000 feet, they danced in a tight arcade, the size of a jet, then merged into a single, massive glow, its edges indistinct, shimmering faintly under the clouds. It streaked closer 20 miles, now silent, save for that thrum-thrum, its glow casting jagged shadows that twisted across the Dreamliner's wings. The wind howled now, a shrieking wail that rocked the plane and sent a flurry of turbulence, swirling, blotting out the horizon. Unidentified traffic, 20 miles west. Hayes radioed Shannon control, her voice trembling, but static swallowed her words, the tower silent. Evans locked the HUD, his hands shaking, catching a silhouette as smooth, amorphous mass, its surface rippling with blue veins, pulsing in sync with a faint TIK-TIK-TIK like claws tapping glass, that echoed through the headset. "It's no aircraft," he rasped. As the glow split again, 5 lights, now darting at impossible speed, mock-toothed and halting, hovering 10 miles off their starboard wing, taunting the dark. The stench surged a wave of decay that buckled their knees, and the thrum-thrum intensified, rattling the seats, shaking the cabin's overhead bins. A beam erupted from the central light, white searing sweeping the sky, locking on the 787. Hayes' skin burned where the reflection hit, a cold fire searing her face, and a sound pierced her skull, high-pitched, were, like a saw shredding steel, driving blood from her nose. A voice not heard but felt hissed in her mind. "You are pursued." The HUD flickered, its screen fogging as a grey mist sprayed from the light, soily, warm coating the windshield, burning its surface, a stench of rot that choked their throats. Passengers stirred, some gasping, others pounding armrests, as the whir spiked, the lights flaring brighter, pulsing faster, heartbeat gone wild. "They're chasing us," Evans shouted, banking east, but the lights matched him silent, relentless basing the jet at 600 knots, shadows in the haze. Virgin Atlantic flight, VS76, 30 miles south, saw it 2 pilot, reporting bright objects, moving fast, his radio spitting that hiss. We pursue. Shannon control, shrugged, no radar, no blips but. A fishing boat off Kerry glimpsed them a glowing arc, streaking over the waves, its shadow darkening the sea. At 6:55 a.m., mate, minutes after they appeared, the lights tilted, their glow flaring once, twice, then streaked upward 5. Fiery darts piercing the clouds, vanishing into the void, with a final thrum-thrum that rippled the ocean. A circle of foam spreading below. The wind died, leaving a silence so deep it crushed their ears, broken only by the faint tick-tick-tick lingering in the cockpit, a ghost in the steel. The 787 steadied, engines roaring back, but the air stayed heavy, the stench clinging to the seats. The whir-whir were echoing faintly through the hull. Hayes landed at Heathrow by 9 a.m., her hands trembling. The windshield warped grey residue defying the cold, burning a mechanic's gloves when he touched it. Evans staggered out, his nose still bleeding, his skin blistered, passenger phones holding blurry shots. Lights stark against the clouds. Shannon logged it to pilots, dozens of witnesses, Egypt in dread. Lights, fast, alive. A coastal village, 50 miles west, reported white streaks in the sky, their boats coughing on that stench till dawn. The jet's radio glitched for hours, fragments of that hiss, replaying "We pursue." And the wind over Ireland wailed on, carrying a faint thrum-thrum heard by shepherds on the cliffs. The Irish Aviation Authority hushed it meteor or test, dismissing radar blanks as equipment failure. But Hayes spoke, her tale backed by Evans, Virgin's, pilot, and passenger shots, too raw for a lie. British Airways buried logs, confiscated phones, but whispers leaked over 50 witnesses, their stories eager in dread. The residue defied lab zinc tracers, molecular shifts, its heat lingering in vials. Hayes aged fast, her hair graying, her sleep a loop of that light, that voice retiring in 20, swearing it was real. Evans turned quiet, his hands blistered, muttering of pursuers till 23. The 787 bore scars, scorch marks, a warm patch, its crew whispering of a presence in the sky. The Phantom of the Chilean Sky, November 11th, 2014. Cast a pale, overcast pall over the rugged coast of Chile, between La Serena and Santiago. The sky shimmered with the faint glow of a setting sun, the air crisp with salt and the Thames of seaweed wafting from the Pacific below. A Chilean Navy Airbus Cougar helicopter, piloted by Captain Juan Morales, 42. A weathered aviator with 15 years in the cockpit, cruised at 4,500 feet on a routine patrol, its blades slicing the stillness. Beside him, LT Pablo Ortiz, 30, a wiry technician, manned the FLIR forward-looking infrared camera, scanning the horizon for smugglers or stray vessels. At 1:36 p.m., the wind shifted, a gentle breeze, turning sharp and frigid, whistling through the chopper with a high, keening edge that rattled the fuselage. The radio crackled a garbled hiss, not Spanish. "We linger," then died, its static hot in Morales's headset. A low thrum-thrum-thrum pulsed from the sky, vibrating through the airframe into their bones, and the instrument's flickered altimeter spinning, compass whirling. The air thickened with a stench ozone and something rancid, like burnt oil laced with sulfur that seeped into the cockpit, stinging their eyes. "What's that smell?" Ortiz muttered, his voice tight as the thrum-thrum grew. a heartbeat in the void. Morales glanced starboard, his breath fogging the glass, and froze. A shape oval, 40 feet long, grey as ash, hovered 10 miles west over the ocean. 5,000 feet up, its surface smooth and featureless, glowing faintly with blue veins along its edges. It hung motionless, silent save for that thrum-thrum, its bulk casting a shadow that darkened the waves below. The wind howled now, a shrieking wail that rocked the chopper and sent a flurry of spray swirling, blotting out the horizon. Unidentified object, 10 miles west. Morales radioed base, his voice trembling, but static swallowed his words, the tower silent. Ortiz locked the flare white-hot. The object pulsed on screen, emitting a trail gray. Wispy, curling like smoke, yet dense, defying the wind's fury. "It's venting something," he rasped, zooming in, catching a silhouette smooth, alive. Its surface rippling, as if breathing, pulsing, in sync with a faint tick-tick-tick like claws, tapping glass that echoed through the headset. The stench surged a wave of decay that buckled their knees, then the thrum-thrum intensified, shaking the chopper, rattling the controls. A beam erupted from the object white, searing sweeping the sky, locking on the cougar. Morales's skin burned where the reflection hit, a cold fire searing his face, and a sound pierced his skull, high-pitched whir, like a turbine shredding steel, driving blood from his nose. A voice not heard, but felt hissed in his mind. "You intrude." The flare flickered, its lens fogging as the grey trail thickened oily, warm coating the chopper's windshield, burning its surface, a stench of rot that choked their throats. "It's alive," Ortiz shouted, yanking the controls, but the chopper lurched power, surging and dying, its blades slowing. Hovering 500 feet from the object's path, the object tilted, its blue veins flaring brighter, pulsing faster, heartbeat gone wild, and the trail surged, a plume stretching miles, curling toward the coast. "It's moving." Morales growled, banking east, but it matched him silent, relentless, pacing the chopper at 120 knots, a phantom in the haze. Ground radar 20 miles off saw nothing, yet a fisherman below glimpsed it, a grey shape, venting smoke, hovering over the waves, its shadow darkening his boat. The whir was spiked, the chopper's HUD spinning, and the stench thickened sulfur and ash, a poison in the air. At 1:47 p.m., minus 11 minutes after it appeared, the object tilted sharply, its blue veins flaring once, twice, then streaked upward, grey dart piercing the clouds, vanishing into the void with a final thrum-thrum that rippled the ocean. A circle of foam spreading like a wound. The wind died, leaving a silence so deep it crushed their ears, broken only by the faint tick-tick-tick lingering in the cockpit, a ghost in the steel. The chopper steadied, blades roaring back, but the air stayed heavy, the stench clinging to the seats, the whir echoing faintly through the hull. Morales landed at base by 2:30 p.m., his hands trembling. The Cougar's windshield warped grey residue, defying the cold, burning a mechanic's gloves when he touched it. Ortiz staggered out, his nose still bleeding, his skin blistered. 10 minutes of footage stark on the flare, an oval, venting, alive. Base radar stayed blank, no blips, but a coastal village 30 miles south reported grey smoke in the sky, their boats coughing on that stench till dusk. The chopper's radio glitched for days, fragments of that hiss, replaying "We linger," and the wind over the coast wailed on, carrying a faint thrum-thrum heard by sailors miles off. The Chilean Navy hushed at tapes, locked for 2 years, released in 17 after no answers. Morales's report, backed by Ortiz, the flare and fisherman tales, too raw for a lie. The government shrugged, unknown craft, dismissing radar blanks as equipment failure. But the residue defied lab's ink traces. Molecular shifts its heat, lingering in vials. Morales aged fast, his hair graying, his sleep a loop of that light. That voice retiring in 18, swearing it was real. Ortiz turned quiet, his hands blistered, muttering of lingerers till 21. The Cougar's hull bore scar scorch marks, a warm patch its crew whispering of a presence in the deep. The Saucer over Mumbai, June 27, 2015. Cloaked Mumbai, a sprawling metropolis of 20 million souls on India's western coast in a humid, monsoon-drenched dusk. The air hung heavy with the scent of wet asphalt and spices drifting from street vendors. The night settling over the chaotic streets of Kerala West with a din of honking rickshaws and chattering crowds. At 8 p.m., the sky darkened under a thick veil of clouds, the wind whispering faintly through the concrete jungle, its lights flickering in the rain-soaked haze. Ravi Patel, 28, a wiry photographer with a restless curiosity, stood on the roof of his tenement in Kerala West, camera in hand, snapping shots of the monsoon's glow over the city. The wind shifted a sluggish breeze, turning sharp and frigid, whistling through the rooftops with a high, keening edge that prickled his scalp. The street noise horns, voices, dogs barking faded into an unnatural hush, broken only by a low thrum pulsing from the sky, vibrating through the concrete into his sandals. His phone buzz, the garbled hiss, not Hindi, we claim, then died, its screen flickering in his hand. He glanced up, his breath fogging in the chill, and froze. A light white blinding erupted 500 feet above the slums, resolving into a shape circular, 40 feet wide, its surface a dull, matte grey that swallowed the rain, glowing with a ring of red lights like embers in the dark. It hung motionless, silent save for that thrum, its edges sharp against the clouds, casting jagged shadows that twisted across the rooftops below. The air thickened with a stench ozone and something rancid, like burnt metal laced with sulfur that stung his nostrils, and the wind howled now. A shrieking wail that shook the tenement and sent a flurry of debris swirling, blotting out the night. "Hi, Bhagwan," Ravi rasped, fumbling with his camera, his hands trembling as he snapped shots. The Saucer looming stark against the monsoon sky. Across the street, Priya Sharma, 35, a schoolteacher, saw it from her balcony, her phone recording, catching the same sight from a second angle. "It's no plane," she whispered, her lens trembling, revealing a silhouette smooth, featureless, its surface rippling with blue veins, pulsing in sync with a faint tik-tik-tik, like claws tapping glass that echoed through the concrete. The stench surged a wave of decay that buckled their knees, and the thrum grew louder, rattling the rooftops, shaking the tenement's rusted railings. A beam erupted from the Saucer white searing sweeping Kerala West, locking on Ravi. His skin burned where it touched, a cold fire searing his arms, and a sound pierced his skull, a high-pitched whir, like a saw shredding bone, driving blood from his nose. A voice not heard but felt hissed in his mind. "You are claimed." His camera slipped, cracking on the roof, its lens fogging as the beam swung to Priya, freezing her mid-step, her eyes wide, her breath shallow. Street vendors bellowed, dozens of witnesses saw. A Saucer, silent, defying the wind's fury. "It's alive," shouted Anil, a chai-walla, his cart trembling as the red lights flared brighter, pulsing faster, heartbeat gone wild. A grey mist sprayed from the Saucer's base, oily, warm coating the rooftops, the streets, their skin burning where it settled. A stench of rot that choked their throats. "It's taking us," Priya sobbed as rickshaws stalled, their engines coughing, headlights dimming. the mist seeping into every crack of the slum. At 8:10 p.m., 10 minutes after it appeared, the saucer tilted, its red lights flaring once, twice, then streaked upward, a grey dart piercing the clouds, vanishing into the monsoon with a final thrum-thrum that rippled the concrete. A circle of cracked pavement spreading through Curla like a wound. The wind died, leaving a silence so deep it crushed their ears, broken only by the faint tick-tick-tick lingering in the tenements, a ghost in the dark. The rain returned, washing the mist away, but the stench remains sulfur and rot, a stain in the air. Ravi slumped against the railing, his nose still bleeding, his skin blistered. His camera's memory card holding the image, a saucer stark against the clouds. Priya staggered back, her phone trembling, the mist's burn marks red on her hands. Anil's cart bore scars, a warm patch on its metal, a grey residue defying the rain burning his fingers when he touched it. Over 50 witnesses, drivers, kids, reported it in dread. Saucer, big, alive, a taxi 2 miles east glimpsed it, to a grey shape streaking past, its engine buzzing with that thrum-thrum for seconds before silence. Mumbai police swept in by 9 p.m, drone or fireworks. They claimed dismissing radar blanks as monsoon interference, but witnesses stood firm. Ravi's photos backed by Priya Anil, and dozens more too raw for a lie. The Indian Air Force hushed its logs, buried. Phones confiscated, but images leaked. Stark and blurry, a crack in the silence. The residue defied lab sync tracers, molecular shift sits, heat lingering in vials. Ravi aged fast, his hair graying, his sleep a loop of that light. That voice quitting photography in 17, swearing it was real. Priya turned quiet, her hands blistered, muttering of claimers till 20. Anil sold his cart, its metal corroded, whispering of Rakshasas till 18. Kurla grew silent, no torgs, no horns resuance, avoiding that stretch where the were lingered in the concrete, heard by night watchmen miles off. January 20th, 1996, Varginha, Brazil. It was just an ordinary, quiet morning in the small Brazilian city of Varginha, but by nightfall, everything would change. It started with unusual sightings. Several locals saw a strange, cigar-shaped craft moving erratically through the sky, leaving behind a trail of smoke. Some claimed it crashed in the nearby woods. Then, the creatures appeared. That afternoon, 3 young girls, Lilian and were walking home when they noticed something crouching near an abandoned lot. At first, they thought it was an animal, but when they looked closer, they realized it was not from this world. The creature was short, with oily brown skin, an oversized head, and huge, glowing red eyes that seemed to peer directly into their souls. It had 3 bony ridges on its forehead and emitted a terrible, sulfuric smell like rotting eggs or ammonia. The girls screamed and ran for their lives. When they told their mother what they had seen, she didn't believe them till she saw the fear in their eyes. Word spread quickly, and soon the entire town was talking about an alien loose in a military cover-up. Meanwhile, multiple witnesses claimed that the Brazilian military had arrived to secure the area. Locals saw unmarked trucks and soldiers heading toward the supposed crash site. A fire department unit was also reportedly sent to capture one of the creatures. One military officer, Marco Eli Charas, was allegedly tasked with transporting a captured entity. A few weeks later, Marco mysteriously died from an unknown infection. Official reports say it was pneumonia, but his family believed it was something far more sinister. As the night went on, more people reported encounters with the bizarre beings. A farmer saw another small creature limping near a road. A hospital worker claimed the military delivered an unknown biological specimen to be examined. Some residents were warned to stay silent or face consequences. The military denied everything. They said the girls had mistaken a deformed man for an alien, and that the UFO sightings were just mass hysteria. But too many people had seen something, and soon rumors spread that the Brazilian government had handed the creatures over to the United States. The truth behind the Wagner incident remains one of Brazil's most chilling UFO mysteries. Were the creatures extraterrestrial beings, survivors from a crashed spacecraft, or was it all just a grand misunderstanding? The answers may be hidden, away locked in classified files, buried beneath layers of denial. But one thing is certain. For the people of Wagner, that terrifying day in 1996 will never be forgotten. In the days following January 20th, 1996, the city of Wagner remained on edge. Rumors spread that the Brazilian military had captured not one, but two alien beings, possibly even retrieved wreckage from a downed UFO. Despite official denials, too many witnesses had seen something. And soon, investigators, journalists, and UFO researchers arrived to uncover the truth. Reports emerged that another entity had been seen limping near a roadside ditch, looking weak and injured. A local farmer saw military trucks stopping nearby, and moments later, soldiers emerged carrying a large, wrapped-up body. Some claimed that the creature was still alive when it was taken away. Military police officer Marco Eli Chireus was allegedly involved in the capture, but within weeks, he mysteriously fell ill and died. His official cause of death: a strange bacterial infection. His family, however, believed that he had come into direct contact with the creature and that whatever he was exposed to had killed him. Around the same time, staff at the Humanitas Hospital in Wagner reported something unusual. A high-security operation had taken place involving the military and unknown officials. Some hospital workers claimed they saw a small body on a gurney, covered in sheets. Others heard that a highly classified autopsy had been performed, but anyone who asked too many questions was warned to remain silent. One nurse allegedly disappeared after speaking to the press. The US involvement. Then, the most bizarre rumor surfaced. The Brazilian government had secretly handed over the recovered entities to the United States. Some claimed a US military aircraft landed in Campinas and left with biological cargo. Witnesses reported seeing American officials at the Brazilian Air Force Base shortly after the events. UFO researchers believe that whatever was recovered never remained in Brazil. Despite dozens of eyewitnesses, the Brazilian military denied everything. Their explanation: the UFO seen crashing, just a military balloon. The strange creatures: a misidentified homeless man suffering from physical disabilities. The military presence: routine training exercises. But these explanations didn't convince the witnesses. To this day, official reports are conflicting. Key documents and testimonies have vanished, and some researchers claim that evidence has been deliberately erased. Over the years, the Wagner incident has become one of the most infamous UFO cases in history. Was a UFO really brought down in Brazil? Were the creatures real? And if so, where are they now? If the truth is out there, it remains buried beneath secrecy, cover-ups, and unanswered questions. For the people of Wagner, however, one thing is certain. Something happened that day in 1996, and it was not of this world.